Welcome to the Career Ready podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and all the things you need to be career ready with the Career Services Center at College of DuPage. I'm Michelle Malik, your host for today's episode. In addition to learning about resources and the job search process, an important part of being career ready is understanding career paths. To help us explore the field of speech language pathology, I have Katie Orzechowski with me, who works as an adjunct faculty in the Speech Language Pathology Assistant program at College of DuPage. Thanks for joining us today, Katie.
Thanks so much for having me, Michelle.
Wonderful. So we're just going to jump right into our questions. Before we get started with our main content, can you share a short introduction, or as we like to call it, your elevator pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, my name is Katie Orzechowski, and I am an adjunct faculty member here at College of DuPage, and I've been here for about 8 years, which is really exciting. And for my main job, I'm a speech language pathologist. And throughout that job, I've had many different roles, supervising SLPAs, teaching, and I primarily work in early intervention, which is a state-funded birth to 3 program seeing clients.
Wonderful. And that's great that you've been here for so long, too.
Yes.
Lots of experience and knowledge, I'm sure.
Yeah, which is really helpful. Our students love to hear about real life client stories and examples. That helps kind of tie everything together for them.
Wonderful. And could you give us an elevator pitch for the program, too?
Yeah, I think what's really important to think about is that communication disorders can affect anyone, from very young children to older people. So we need speech language pathologists and speech language pathology assistants to help provide services to people in a wide variety of settings with a wide variety of disorders to help, enhance their quality of life and give them those functional communication skills.
Wonderful. And I'm glad you're talking about this program because I'm very aware of speech language pathology or pathologists, but I never knew that there were assistants too. So I'm just glad that you're going to share all this information with us. And if any of our listeners are interested in the program, this is the place to listen for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to notice, too, that right now in Illinois, we are the only speech language pathology assistant program in the state.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So it's important to kind of get the word out so that maybe if you don't live within district, you could still be able to attend the program and earn your SLPA license.
For our next question, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the SLPA field and the different career paths that it can lead to.
Sure. So the SLPA program here at College of DuPage is an associate's level program. So it's a 2-year program that following graduation and completion of the program, students are able to apply for their SLPA license in Illinois to practice as an SLPA. And I think it's really important because the demand for SLPAs is consistently growing, and we're seeing that across different settings, such as school-based clinicians, as well as early intervention providers. Also, the SLPA scope of practice was revised in 2021 by our governing body, which is the American Speech Language Hearing Association. And I was actually a part of that board to revise that scope of practice for SLPAs. So there were SLPs and SLPAs from all across the country who collaborated on that for over a year to revise that scope of practice so that SLPAs can do more within the field now than they were prior to 2021, which has been great. And different career paths it can lead to. An SLPA is a great start if a student wants to be a speech language pathologist. So they can earn their associate's level degree. They can work as an SLPA while they're in graduate school or getting their bachelor's degree. And then they have that real life hands-on experience with clients that sets them apart from other students applying to graduate programs, which are very competitive. About less than 30% of applicants are accepted to SLP graduate programs. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of graduates from our program who have moved on to become SLPs, and they've really had a leg up being an SLPA and working hands-on with clients.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good point, is that they do get hands-on experience. If they are wanting to become a speech language pathologist, they can figure out if that's the next step for them. And then they're also networking and making connections with people in the field. So I love that the program offers that to students.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great way to think that if right now maybe isn't the time to go to graduate school, or like you said, they're kind of unsure if this is the career path for them, a 2 years associate level degree is a lot more manageable than committing to a 6-year program. So I think it's a great way for students to get their foot kind of in the door and then decide if they want to pursue higher education within the field.
Yeah, especially if it's that competitive, like you're saying, that's a great step for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we've had many successful SLPA program graduates move on to graduate school and become full SLPs. So it's really wonderful for us as faculty to see that.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. So what skills or strengths do students gain while completing the program or after they've graduated?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, our program learning outcomes, of course, for our students. And the main thing that we want to do is prepare them for real life experiences with clients. We want them to be well-rounded clinicians who understand a variety of communication disorders, what the characteristics looks like, what the treatments are, how to effectively plan therapy, how to execute therapy. And then we're also looking at interpersonal skills and how they communicate with others, especially as SLPAs work under the supervision of an SLP. So they need to have really great communication skills. They need to be able to take feedback and criticism and be able to kind of grow from that information from their supervising SLP so they can continue to learn those professional skills and become better clinicians the longer that they're out in the field.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we talk about those skills a lot on the podcast, and, work experiences are one way to gain them. So that's great that they're being exposed to that.
Absolutely. And that is something, we're supposed to be experts in communication. So we need to make sure that if we can't teach those skills if we're not pretty proficient in those skills ourselves.
Right. That'd probably be a really good thing to work on.
Yes, absolutely.
So are there different experiences or opportunities you recommend developing professionals seek out?
Yeah, absolutely. During at least 2 of our courses, we have students do observations of SLPs. So before they even get any hands-on experience themselves with clients, we have them do observations. And I think that that's so important to see, what does this field look like? What does treatment look like? What is bad behavior look like in clients? How do we manage these things? How do we explain things to other teachers or caregivers or other professionals in the field, like other therapists? So that observation piece, I think, is really key because it gives us so much information, and that really helps set us up for success for the program. So that's something that is a very powerful tool that we use within our program.
Yeah, and we always encourage students and clients to do informational interviews, observe when they can, because like you said, they're able to get that real world experience, and they're talking to individuals who are in the field who, work with clients and other individuals on a daily basis. So they're going to have to know what it's like to be in the field.
Absolutely. And it, like you said, it gives them that kind of this is what a day looks like.
Right.
Is this something you want to do or something you don't want to do? Now is kind of the time to make a choice.
Right. Yeah. And so it exposes them, it sounds like, to challenges or also maybe things that they would like that they didn't think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also allows students to kind of determine what age group they would kind of like to work with, and then in what setting they would like to work with. So if they'd rather potentially work in a private clinic setting or an elementary, middle, or high school, or do early intervention, which is that birth to 3, which is primarily home-based services. So it kind of gives them a wide net to cast when they're observing and kind of deciding what population and setting they would feel the most comfortable and successful working in.
Right. And I think that would be good, too, before committing to a career path.
Absolutely. Yes. You want to see what you're getting into, especially working with children.
Definitely. What are you doing in your program here at COD to prepare students for the field?
We prepare our students in two main ways here at College of DuPage to become a licensed SLPA. So we're looking at their educational piece, which is within the classroom. So we're teaching students about what's typical development and then what does atypical development look like, how to follow a treatment plan because their supervising SLP will be writing the treatment plan while the SLPA is executing the therapy, how to write goals, how to plan therapy activities, as well as different characteristics in treatment of a wide variety of communication and language disorders. So that's really wonderful because we can teach you all of these things, but you need to see all of these things and experience them in real time with real clients. So the final way that we prepare our students is during their final semester, they are enrolled in a practicum 3 days a week. So they're off-site from the college and they're either doing early intervention, a private clinic, a school, and they're working with an SLP 3 days a week for the whole semester, and they're planning therapy and they're writing lesson plans and they're executing therapy and they're doing behavior management and they're taking data and they're writing therapy notes. And they're learning so much from that experience because now they've taken all that educational information we've taught them over the past 4 or 5 semesters and they're able to see it in real time in real clients. So that's kind of the main way that we get them ready for actually being an SLPA.
Yeah, lots of hands-on experience just from hearing you talk about the field. And again, I think that's just so great for students to be able to experience that so early on and while they're still in the program too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it allows for them after graduation, they're eligible for their licensure through the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. After they graduate from our program, they're able to take the ASHA SLPA certification exam. And then they're also eligible to take an online and in-person training if they're going to be working in early intervention to gain that credential. And they're also ready to work in a school district as an SLPA. So once they've completed the program, they just have to wait for their licensure from the state, and then they're ready to go and to work in the field as soon as that license comes through.
That's great. It sounds like they can just hit the ground running.
Absolutely. Yeah, which is really wonderful because there is wait lists and there's a lot of students and clients that need assistance. So the more SLPAs we can get out working in the field, the more children we can serve.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, is there anything else you would recommend to students or even young professionals to prepare for the field?
Yeah, you brought this up earlier, Michelle, talking about like networking and, like through observations and like meeting other professionals in the field, and whether that's other SLPs or physical therapists, occupational therapists, developmental therapists, because we all have the same goal, right, is to help this child reach their developmental milestones. So we're all looking at that through a different lens, but we all need to work together. So networking observations is a wonderful way. Students and young professionals can also get involved with the Illinois Speech and Hearing Association, and then again, that national organization by attending conventions, joining these organizations, volunteering. And then our young professionals are also required to do continuing education for their state licensure, and then if they have an early intervention credential as well as our SLPs. So we're always doing continuing education, which is so important just to learn about new treatment methods and new research and all of these things in the field so we can help use that evidence-based information to treat our clients in the best way that we can. So it's really important that young professionals are seeking out those opportunities as they apply to the population that they're working with.
Right. They want to stay up to date on, like you said, the treatments and just the industry in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's always new research and information coming out. So we want to make sure that we're not using something super dated. So we're using that evidence-based practice to provide the best services we can for our clients.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm wondering, with the associations that you mentioned, do you know how accessible those are for students or young professionals?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that they have lower rates for students and new graduates, and then after a couple of years, you're on your own with. But a lot of school districts and other jobs might give stipends towards those fees to be a part of these organizations. So that's something as well that when students are in, or when professionals are placed in their jobs, they might be able to get some compensation to help with some of those association fees.
Yeah, that would make sense too, because I'm sure wherever they work, they want to promote that professional development. But it's nice to know too, though, that if students or young professionals want to get involved early, that they can, and it's not overwhelming in terms of financing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And volunteering at the different conventions and things is a great way to just be exposed to all of the different vendors and the different products and assessments and therapy materials and other SLPAs and SLPs, whether in the state or nationally at the national conference. So it's wonderful to be able to kind of make connections across states and then within Illinois as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I didn't even think about that, volunteering at the conventions, and that's something that could go on a resume too. So
yeah, absolutely. That would look wonderful on a resume to show that you're involved, you've been engaged, and you're trying to network at this higher level while you're still a student or a young professional.
Great information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The last question we have is, how can interested listeners find out more about the program here at COD?
Yeah, I think there's kind of three main ways. So the first is exploring our website, which is on COD's website. So searching for the Speech Language Pathology Assistant program, there's a ton of information on there, which potential students can look at. Also, our application is on the website. So kind of overlooking that, making sure that we're meeting some of those qualifications or in preparation for applying, want to make sure that we are seeing everything we need to do, the prereqs we need to take, like all of those things. And then the last way is to schedule an academic advising appointment with our program coordinator, and her information is on the website as well.
So if any of our listeners are interested in this program, definitely reach out, look at the webpage, look at the application instructions. And we thank you so much again, Katie, for being here today and sharing all of this wonderful information.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It was great.
With today's episode, there aren't any listener questions. However, if you do have a question, just remember that you can submit it to careerpodcast@cod.edu or on social media at COD Career Center, and you may hear the answer in a future episode. Thanks to all of our listeners, and special thanks to Katie once again for joining the Career Ready podcast. We hope you now have a better understanding of the Speech Language Pathology Assistant program.